recording, thank you. And Ingrid, if you could share the agenda, please. Okay. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the IGBIS AGM on the 27th of September 2023. We do make a quorum, so we can go ahead. So that was item number 2, determining of quorum. We are standing now at 21 people or 21 participants in the room at 6 minutes past 9. So welcome again. There's an opening and a welcome on the agenda. So I'm following the agenda. So we'll say welcome to everybody. Thank you for attending and for making sure that we are quorum so that we can have this AGM. I want to go to item number 4. Ingrid, can you make the agenda a little bit bigger? Thank you. I think that's good. Is that good for everybody? Everybody can see? You can just indicate in the chat. I will assume it's good. I'm not seeing anything in the chat. I would like to make an amendment to the agenda. I would like to add the PRO's report. Is that acceptable to everybody? I don't see any objections in the chat. I don't see any hands that are raised. All right. So then, are there any other additions to the agenda? Any other changes to the agenda? You can either make it, put it in the chat or put your hand up if you've got anything to add or change. Okay, I don't see anything. No hands are raised. And I don't see anything in the chat. Did I hear somebody put a mic on? Anybody who wants to add anything? Is it just feedback on my side? All right. Then can I have somebody propose that we accept the agenda? And I will also need someone to second it. Either in the chat again, colleagues, or if you want to raise your hand, that would be fine.
I see Helena put up a thumbs up in attendees list. And
okay,
Louisa,
I see in the chat, Louisa and Lindy Wiltz from Sabinet have supported the confirmation of the agenda. Thank you very much. All right. Are there any apologies to note? I have none from my side. If you think about it later on, you can always put it in the chat. And then in terms of attendance, the president indicated that he would join the meeting at some point. So I hope he has the opportunity to do that. Just checking through the screen to see if there's anything. All right, it looks as if there's nothing. We can move on to item 6, personalia. So this would be anything that we should be aware of, any celebrations, any bereavements, any accomplishments. We do have an accomplishment to celebrate amongst the executive committee. Mersha, the deputy, oh no, sorry, I keep calling her deputy, the chair-elect, Mersha Moriana, is now a master in library information science. She was awarded her master's degree in, is it the middle of the year, Mersha?
In April.
In April.
Yes.
Congratulations to Mersha, well done.
Thank you.
It's tough to do your masters and serve on a committee, colleagues. It's really challenging. So it's really a big round of applause to Mersha for doing it. And we wish Sarah, of course, the best of luck with her masters. She's still in the process. Is there anything else from the colleagues in the room in terms of personalia? If not, then we can move on to item 7, minutes from the IGBIS AGM 14 September 2022. Ingrid, would you like to bring up the minutes? You can make it a bit bigger, Ingrid. Again, it's very small. That's much better, yes. Is that fine for everybody? Can you see? Yes, good. Thank you very much, Jean. All right, let's go through the minutes and see if there are any corrections. Anything that we must pick up from the agenda. Oh, sorry, from the minutes. It looks fine. I don't see anything in the chat. I don't see any hands. Let's go to the second page, Ingrid. Any corrections so far on page 2? Okay, I don't see anything in the chat, Ingrid, or any hands. I think we can move down. All right. Any corrections? on this part of the minutes. Okay, it looks like there is nothing. Further, can I have a proposal to accept the minutes as a correct reflection and representation of the AGM on the 12th of September 2022? I will need somebody to propose. Thank you. I think it's C. Reynolds to accept, and somebody to second it, please. Thank you, Dion, for seconding the adoption of the minutes. Thank you, colleagues. Ingrid, if we can see the agenda again. So 7A has been dealt with. We're moving on then to 7B, matters arising from the minutes. I didn't see anything that won't be addressed in our agenda today. If there is anything that you've picked up, please put it in the chat. Or put your hand up, or just put your microphone on and speak. All right, I don't see any hands. Don't see anything in the chat. So it looks like there are no matters from the minutes of 2022. All right. Okay. So I think we can move on then to item 8, Chairperson's report. Ingrid, I will share my screen. I must remember which order I will do this in. Right. Can you see the presentation mode of the PowerPoint? I can't see anything at the moment because it's showing I've got both my screens occupied, so I'm going to need somebody to confirm it verbally.
We can't see any screen sharing at the moment.
Okay, let me do that again then. All right, we'll try again. Are you seeing anything?
The presentation, yes.
In presentation mode or notes, or the notes?
No, presentation mode, your
Okay,
slides.
excellent. Thank you very much. All right, colleagues, this is the chair's report. I am Fatima Daris, I'm the chair of IGBIS. And the report is presented in the presentation format. Are there activities undertaken since the AGM in 2022 to the AGM or prior to the AGM of IGBIS in 2023? But I'm just sharing now a slide with an overview of the presentation just to help us negotiate the deck of slides. I've got my camera on at the moment. If I get a unstable internet connection message, I'm going to put the camera off. Okay, so I hope that's in order with everyone. Okay, so we'll start with the leadership and governance issues or activities. The executive committee that I will remind you of is myself as the chair, Mersha Moriana as the chair-elect, who takes care also of the treasury as well as of membership. Ingrid Hendrisi, who is the secretary, and Sarah Golby, who is the PRO. I'm not finished with what I wanted to say on the deck of slides. I don't move yet. We've had several meetings, colleagues, as you can see. we've had planning workshops and event planning and coordination that we did towards the end of 2022, coming into 2023. Our business meetings happens on a monthly basis. So those workshop meetings are in addition to the monthly virtual meetings where we take care of the strategy, the planning. We have a look at the membership and the finance as well. And we carefully monitor also, or coordinate rather, all the public relations and communication to membership as well. In addition to the business meeting, we also had sort of administrative meetings where we looked at the microsite on the LIASA site, as well as our documents. We are trying to be good about knowledge management and handing over content to next committees that come in after us, however, by whatever name they will be called on the Google Drive, which is where we are keeping our business content. And then I also convened this year an awards committee meeting earlier in the year. We also had to have a meeting to deal with confirm the deputy coordinator of the ethics task team to take over the leadership after Ms. Judith changed employment and infrastructure became a problem for her. And then lastly, I chaired a meeting on the cataloging Code of Ethics translators meeting, and this came out of an event that we have, which I'll talk about a little bit later on. So we've been quite busy. So our strategy as we started our term in 2021 has been to be visible and increase the visibility of IGBIS. And so in the latter part of 2022 and coming into 2023, we continued on with the strategy of increasing the visibility of IGBIS by having monthly events, posting to membership lists, using basically all of our communication channels, which I've just listed there. And then, of course, making sure that, I'm not ready, it's moving. And then making sure that we follow up on these events that we have by writing about it and having it published in the LIASA in Touch article. All of these have been done in order to ensure that we have we maintain visibility amongst membership. So I think the strategy has worked. One of the reasons that we have done that is to increase the membership by providing opportunities for the description community to engage and perhaps also to challenge the community. So we've seen when we came into office in 2021, the membership was at 111. In 2023, for this AGM, the membership is at 194. So a very nice increase there, and a strategy I think that has paid off very well. As I've said, we post regularly, and we continue to bring out the IGBIS in Touch and share posts, whether it's of our own events or other information and content relevant to the description community on our social media networks. All of our events are recorded on the LIASA News and they are posted on the LIASA News YouTube channel. The only event that is not recorded is the full pay workshop that we had, and which was for competency. So that one we asked that not be posted. One of the important and I think popular series that we've held was the IGBIS with Leaders conversations. And this year we concluded the conversations with past LIASA presidents. The intention of these conversations was to encourage the IGBIS community to take up leadership positions in IGBIS and the broader LIASA and in the profession. We then asked leaders to share their career progression, key moments and insights that motivated and inspired them. And we did so in the hope that it would inspire other colleagues to take up the position, take up the positions of leadership in whatever form it presents itself, to take it up as well and to not shy away from it. And so the activities during this reporting period starts at the end of 2022. So just after conference, we had Rachel Moore on the 8th of November, and then early this year, Mandla, and then Nikki, who concluded the conversations with the past presidents. We do still have Tommy Mattia, who promised that when he's available, he will let us know. So I'm hoping that maybe there will still be another conversation. Then the other theme, or the second major part of the strategy of IGBIS, was around the cataloging code of ethics. The code of ethics was developed by a somewhat international community in the north, in the global north. And we wanted to explore it within the South African context. And to that end, we put together, you will recall last year already, that we had put together the ethics task team. And they then decided that the way to go to canvas the South African perspective on the cataloging code of ethics is to conduct a survey. The cataloging ethics team was first chaired by Ms. Judith Noble and later Ms. Tini de Klerk. That happened, as I said earlier, after there were some changes in infrastructure and so on for Judith. We set up an IGBIS ethics Gmail account, and you can still send messages there if you would like. The survey was held during June, and we did quite a lot of work on it, centered on the various listservs that we could find librarians on, and we also centered on listservs that we could find that was in the GLAM sector, because it's not just the library information science sector or the library sector that does metadata description, that does cataloging, but in fact, the GLAM sector as a whole does that. So we try to also reach out into those areas. So we're looking forward to the 2023 conference session, where Tini will present some of the survey results. And then we will finalize the report subsequent to the conference. And I'm very excited to hear the full report and to hear the session at conference. So many of the events this year that we held, we also included an update on the work of the ethics task team. So I'm sure that if you've attended, you will be very much aware of it. And I'll just remind everybody again that this conversation took place, or this part of the strategy was really following the conversation that we had with Dr. Deborah Lee in June 2022, where she looked at the biases within tools and standards that we use. And this again is under the bigger umbrella of critical librarianship and critical cataloging. So the other piece of work that we did around the cataloging code of ethics is the translations into the South African languages. Again, this was the result of the event that we had in April with the steering committee, where they also offered to, we could post the translations onto their site, which we are still planning to do. We just need to get an official, one of the departments that we have at our institutions to sign off on the translations. I want to also thank all of the colleagues. In the slide that you see, you'll see people's names. I hope that they are correct. I did make sure that they are correct in the actual translation documents. There's a note in the foot of each of the versions of the translations with the translators in. We are still outstanding 3 languages, and there's still time and space if anybody would like to volunteer, so that we can have a full deck of all of the languages. The code is written in English, so we don't see a need for it to be written in South African English, but we'll see what the outcomes of the survey is. We wanted to have the translations done for the June survey. So when the survey came out, there was a link for everybody to the translations. The translations are currently on the Google Drive, so people could access it and hopefully digest and create meaning for what it means from their mother tongue. And hopefully again spark a bit, better engagement around the principles and better feedback from the survey. I also want to take the opportunity to acknowledge and thank the translators, because they were really quick in their response, and they did a lot of work in a very short period of time, and everybody adhered to the deadlines that we set, which again, it was very tight. So I just want to say a huge thank you to all of the colleagues for their outstanding work ethic. They did this on their own. They volunteered to do this. There was nothing initially in it for them, but I thought that I would share is perhaps to encourage colleagues for the last 3 languages that we still need that. I did manage to point out to the office that the colleagues who worked on the translations qualify for CPD points. So CPD points are continuing professional development points. And these are the points that you have to maintain for your professional librarian status. If you've been awarded professional librarian status, you need to attend and be active to earn points. And so colleagues were able to be awarded points. So I hope it is maybe a little bit of an enticement for anybody who would like to volunteer for the 3 languages that we still have that we need translations for. So the other then the other piece of work, or the events around or what transpired or was inspired from the Cataloging Code of Ethics, was a look at our tools and how do we make changes to the tools that we use. So these are vocabularies and such as our subject headings and name authorities and so on. So many of the events that we then had was around the Cataloging Code of Ethics, and you will see that I'm also including here the IGBIS roundtable conversation that we had at conference in 2022, and then Violet Fox's engagement on SEARS inspired a conversation or a request for a South African subject heading list. We put this together and we made this available again. It's currently on the Google Drive. However, I think we need to do a little bit of work around it. So we will have to put it on a proper place, give it a home, and give it and have somebody take care of it, and also to make people aware of it so that we can contribute to the South African list. The other event that sparked subsequent work, or which is what I've already reported on the South African language translations, was the event that we had on the 25th of April with the steering committee, which included Jane Daniels and the rest of the team. And that, again, as I said, gave rise to the South African language translations. And then we found the event around NACO and name authorities quite popular. So happily, Esther offered to do a second one. So we had one on the 6th and also one on the 15th, which was very well attended, I must say. And then we had the FAST subject headings presentation by Dean Seaman in July. those are the events that we had around tools and ethics. There were two other events that I want to report on. It's the Dewey workshop, the shelving workshop that we had in the end of 2022. This was requested via the NIASA National Office, and the presenters were Gert de Jager and Ingrid Nieuwoud. They were full competency, so they needed to be an assessment and all of that. So that was quite a lot of work just immediately after the conference, but we managed to, I think, do a good job and deliver something that people found of value. And then finally, the workshop, not so much a workshop, but there's a presentation, although the National Library does offer full workshops on disaster management, but we had a disaster management presentation on the 5th of September by Ms. Marietta van der Merwe. This is where we took a little sidestep away from the ethics and the tools and so on, and we looked at something a little bit different. Again, this was very well attended, so something definitely that is needed. So I'm very happy that we were able to, under the IGBIS banner, deliver something that membership found of value. All right, I think the last item now is the NIASA IGBIS Award. So I convened the committee earlier this year. Colleagues may recall that the IGBIS Award was approved in the AGM of 2022. The awards committee is comprised of the current executive committee and past chairs. And we convened, as I said, earlier this year on the 24th of March. The decision was to not grant the award, and that's solely because of the funding. The entire rationale for the award was based on using the return of investments of the IGBIS funds for the award. And colleagues may remember that we had to move our funds into the national account. Once we did that, the monies then had to be moved into investment accounts and so on. And what we found when we met was that there wasn't sufficient return on investment. My note says that there was only 2,500 interest that was earned at that point, and it was really too little for anybody to do anything with. So we decided to not award the IGBIS award in 2023. We're hoping that we will have better, because we then would have had a longer period of investment on the funds, better returns on it. So we're looking forward to being able to do this in the future. I'm sharing the timeline as well in the slides, just to give you an indication of why that meeting had to take place early in the year, and why whatever the return was at that point was the amount that we used for making the decision, because there's quite a process to be followed. And the person we wanted to be able to award the funds and have the person who would have won the opportunity to have expended it and be able to report back. So that was the rationale for that. And then I think, colleagues, that is the end of my presentation. I just want to say one thing with regards to the elections, because I'm sure that you already know, because it was a stakeholder meeting last week, where the president, which the president chaired and facilitated. And you will also know that the elections were impacted on by the new structure, which is in compliance with NIASA being a professional body. And in order to put the new structure in place, constitutional amendments had to be made, and that required consultation with legal experts and so on. And so that whole process took longer than expected and impacted on elections. So our term of office would have ended now, and we would normally have handed over. But we are not going to do that because, as I said, of the new structure and the constitutional amendments. So last week, the president held the consultative meeting, and out of that was a proposal to take a motion to AGM at the October conference to adjourn matters relating to the structure and constitutional amendments to February next year. So that, thank you very much, colleagues, is the end of my presentation. I'll stop there and I'll stop sharing. Thank you, Apalele. Thank you, John. Are there any questions? I think I'll take questions now before we go to the other items. Doesn't look like it. It's a cold morning in Pretoria. I wonder if it's impacting on people's quietness this morning. So that, colleagues, was item 8. That was the chairperson's report. Next is our treasurer's report on our finances. So, Mersha, when you're ready.
Good morning, colleagues. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear, Mersha. Good. We can't see you.
You
Should we
know,
see
today I don't know what's happening with my...
Okay. Okay, don't
Sarah,
worry.
can you please help
Do you need somebody
with
to share?
sharing? Yes, please. I don't know what's happening with my computer today.
Okay, I'll share. Is it the, let me just see now, the AGM finance report?
Yeah, yes, please.
Okay.
But my video is on. Can't you see me?
We can see your background.
Yeah. That's strange.
Technology is just not working with you this morning, Mersha. Don't worry about it, Mersha. Your voice is nice and clear. So go ahead.
Okay, good morning, colleagues, once more. The financial report will cover the period from January 2022 to end of July 2023. Next slide, please, Sarah. The overview, this is just to keep you updated of what happened in the past year. Transfer of funds, as it was reported in the previous year AGM, a decision was made by the LIASA executive that all branches and interest group transfer their accounts to the LIASA National Office main account, and it was mandatory for everyone to do so. So the IGBIS fund was transferred from the IGBIS ABSA account to the LIASA National FNB account on the 27th of January 2022. And the ABSA account that was used by IGBIS was closed on the 31st of January 2022. The investment account, in the last year's AGM, it was reported that we are in the process of investigating the best option for an investment account at FNB. As the committee, we then agreed to open a 48-hour cash accelerator, and the account was opened on the 22nd of August 2022. Sarah, you can now share the... Okay, colleagues, are you able to see? Is it visible? Okay, thank you, Louisa. So we'll start with the 2022 report. At the beginning of 2022, the amount that was transferred to the Liasa FNB account was 143,643 and 43 cents. This is IGBIS deposit that was received into the combined account, which is simply, which is in simple terms means a day-to-day account. And then in August, 133,130 and 72 cents was then transferred to the investment account. And then in the combined bank account, 10,512 rand 71 cents was then left in the account. And then in November 2022, we received an income. The income was from the GWI workshop that we held. And the total income that we received was 21,500, of which 13,800 was received in 2022. And then the remaining 7,700 was received in 2023. Closing balance for both accounts as at 31st December 2022 was 160,102 and 63 cents. Moving on to 2023, the opening balance as at 1st January 2023 for both accounts was 160,102 and 63 cents. And this balance was made of the combined bank account, of which it was for 24,312 rand and 71. And from the investment account, it was 135,709 and 92 cents. The closing balance for both accounts as at 31st July 2023 is 173,348 and 34 cents, which is the total is made of the combined account of 32,012 and 71 cents plus the money from the investment account, which is 141,335 and 63. So the balance now that we have as IGBIS is 173,348 and 34 cents for both accounts. Thank you, colleagues. Do you have any questions? Any questions, colleagues, on the finances?
Marsha, this is Fatima. I have a question.
Yes.
Was the funds of the November workshop on the DUI for shelving, were those funds now deposited into the investment account?
No, they are still in the combined account. Yeah, as you see that now in the combined account, we have 32,000. So it's the 10,000.
No.
Yes, the original 10,000 plus the 21,500 that we received from the workshop. So it has not yet been transferred to the investment account.
Thank you, Marsha.
Yes. Another questions, colleagues? Okay. Fatima, I think I'll hand over to you. Hence, there are no questions.
Yeah, I don't see anything in the chat about the finances. There are no things. I do see in the chat that colleagues are having a bit of problem with connection this morning from Esther at UNISA. But I think Esther, as I said in the chat, I think it's on the UNISA side. I think everybody, can I have a, maybe just check, is everybody hearing us okay and you can see okay? Tina's showing thumbs up. So I think definitely, Susan, thank you as well. Lindy, thank you. I think yesterday it's definitely on the UNISA side. The campus network is a bit wonky at the moment. I think they are working on something. All right. So Ingrid, let's have a look at the agenda. Let's see where we are. Where are we? We've done item 9, the Treasurer's report. So we are now on item 10, the Public Relations Officer's report. Who is Sarah? Sarah, when you are ready. Ingrid, you can start sharing.
I'm going to find my presentation. Yes. Great. Good morning, everyone. So I'm just going to give you an overview of what's been happening with the PR and social media during the last year. So we're going to cover the period since the last AGM, which takes us to September 2022 to August 2023. So this year we continue to maintain IGBIS's Facebook and Twitter accounts, and we also continued with the release of the annual IGBIS in Touch. We've made an effort to maintain the IGBIS portal hosted on the LIASA website and also make use of the email function to communicate with IGBIS members. We've also been making use of Google Forms to get feedback on our events. This was particularly used with the IGBIS with Leaders conversation series. So we're going to look at our Facebook analytics quickly. The Facebook page was launched in 2019. As of September 2023, we have a total of 852 page likes and 928 Facebook followers. So during this term or this year, posts on the page have focused on the webinars and the virtual workshops we've been hosting throughout the year. So these two graphs are illustrating page likes and page visits. As illustrated in the top graph, there's been a drop in likes over the course of this year. This is down from 202 new page likes during October 2021 through to August 22. However, page visits went up during this period. Page visits refers to the actual unique visits to the IGBIS page by users, rather than posts simply being viewed in a user's feed. So this could indicate more interest from existing followers about our activities and also sort of suggests that IGBIS is on people's minds. So I'm going to highlight some of the posts that received the most interest. This is gauged by post likes, reach, and shares. One of the main events of interest was the webinar featuring the International Cataloging Ethics Steering Committee and South Africa's own Cataloging Code of Ethics Task Team. There was also a great response to our DUI workshop in November with our guests Ingrid Nieuwoud and Dr. Gert de Jager from University of South Africa Library. And of course, there's always good feedback from our IGBIS with Leaders events. And as we know, during this period, we had conversations with Rachel Moray, Mantra Ndela, and Nikki Craster. So the page was also used as a platform for sharing the questionnaire developed by the South African Cataloging Ethics Task Team. And another important project for us that required community engagement was the translation of the Code of Ethics into South Africa's official languages. We're going to briefly look at Twitter analytics, or X as it's now known. Although we've seen some growth on Twitter, the Facebook page continues to hold most of the engagement for our interest group. Because of changes happening at Twitter, there's been a slow shift with academics moving towards decentralized social platforms. However, Twitter is still a predominant communication platform for many professionals in the library and information field. So this gave us the opportunity to engage with international guests that we've hosted on some of our webinars. And of course, as with our Facebook page, we used the profile to share when event recordings were uploaded to the Liasa News YouTube channel. We shared the call for the community to engage with the task team's questionnaire and to volunteer for translating the Code of Ethics. So we look at our IGBIS in Touch newsletter. As this was going to be an election year, the intention was to release an issue this month, and another one would be prepared by the incoming executive committee towards the end of the year. However, with the postponement of elections and the extension of interest group committee terms, we decided to release a single IGBIS in Touch at the end of this year. A call for articles was sent out a couple of months ago, but we're going to send it out again due to the extended deadline. We really do urge members to send their articles for inclusion. IGBIS is all about its community, and we do want our newsletter to reflect that. So the Liasa IGBIS microsite is a Liasa members-only portal. Sign-in is required. We're continuing the fabulous work the previous committee put into the website by adding all the webinars and workshops conducted during the year. We also want to develop a page that includes content relating to the Cataloging Code of Ethics and the work of the local task team. The microsite has also been really useful, as you can send out emails exclusively to IGBIS members, so we can keep everyone up to date about events coming up or any updates we want to share. And lastly, one of the ways we seek out engagement from the community is the use of feedback forms. So these were used primarily with our IGBIS with Leaders conversations, but the intention will be to use them following every event that we host. The forms are helpful for us to understand what our community appreciates about our events, what you would like to see more of, and whether there are any suggestions for future events. So we hope that event attendees will contribute to improving our content by completing these surveys when they're made available. And yeah, as I've stated during this presentation, IGBIS and the EXCO exist for its community members. So reach out to us on any of these platforms. We always love to hear from you. Thank you very much. I don't know if there are any questions. Yeah.
Any questions for Sarah? Nothing. Just a bit of irony for you colleagues. The AGM seems to be the least popular event, which is just not a surprise. Thank you, Apulele. Thank you very much. It looks like there's no questions, Sarah. We can move on to our next item, which is general. We don't have any items under general. However, allow me to at this point acknowledge the presence of the President, Mr. Nazim Hardy. And I think, colleagues, if you would like to take the opportunity to pose questions to him, he would be happy to take it. Mr. President, I'm putting words into your mouth.
That's okay, Fatima. Good morning, colleagues. I did indicate, I hope you're all doing well. And let me start off by saying that I think out of all of the interest groups and branches in this last year, I think IGBIS has probably been, I think, the highlight, I think, in terms of LIASA and its structures. I don't just say that because I'm here today. I think, and I take my hat off to the committee for all the hard work that they've actually done, everything that they've actually put in. And I think it's remarkable, all of the things that IGBIS has actually managed to carry off in this year. I think it speaks to where restructuring wants to go. I think the lack of what happens in the branches, I think, has been really evident in this year. And I don't say that lightly. And I think where the real strengths have lain has actually been in the sectors. And I think IGBIS has been at the forefront of that. I suppose I also should note at this point, and Fatima always points this out to us in EXCO, as well as in Rep Council, is that in the way the restructuring is intended to happen, there isn't actually a sector for IGBIS on its own. And she has made a plea, and we have taken note of it, the fact that it needs to make allowance for structures like IGBIS, which doesn't fit into the restructuring model the way it currently looks, where it talks to public, academic, school, etc. But there certainly is a place for a structure like this, and it's not the only one. And it's something that is there, that we need to have a look at, and we need to ensure that it actually doesn't get lost within the restructuring conversation. And we need to look at what is that component going to be in the new structure that makes allowance for things like what IGBIS does, things like ICT, as well as, for example, the student chapter that we've been having discussions about. But that's not actually why I'm necessarily here. I just wanted to say congratulations to the team, and for everything that you've actually done for this last year. And I think it really warrants specific and special mention. So I had said to Fatima, as well as the rest of Rep Council, as well, that where the AGMs are happening this year, or the President-elect will avail ourselves, and we will be open to answering any questions that anybody has around the whole issue raised at the stakeholders meeting, which was about restructuring, postponement of elections, and what we intend to take forward as a motion to conference. So the floor is open, and you are welcome to ask me anything, and I will try my best to respond to any questions that anybody has.
We are a quiet bunch, Mr. President. So we'll give colleagues an opportunity to put it in, to put the question in the chat if they would like. Again, you could also raise your hand, or just unmute yourself and pose a question. Thank you, Mr. President. While I'm speaking for the acknowledgement, certainly one of the things that motivated us as a committee and myself as a chair is the restructuring, and as you've pointed out, a sort of gap in the structure to see where IGBIS will be in the new structure. That is what has motivated us to grow the membership as much as possible, and why we followed a high visibility strategy, or with a hashtag be visible. because we wanted to grow the membership and we wanted to make sure that IGBIS is not, and the community that IGBIS serves is not overlooked. And so the membership for within this community, you know, the specific community, needed to be substantial in order to make sure that we are not, we don't lose this national forum for metadata and cataloging practitioners. It is, and I say this everywhere that I go, as you well know, Mr. President, it is the last remaining national space, and we dare not lose it, because I think it will damage our professionality in the country enormously. So thank you for coming in and for the reassurance, I think, that you've given to this community in particular as well. I don't see anything in the chat. It looks like I don't. Is there? Let's give it another. Let's give you another.
So maybe, so maybe I'll just talk. So, just before I get to the other part of it, let me just say also. So, I think what you and your committee have highlighted, I think through what you've done this year, I think for me, from a professional point of view, when I look at the conversations that happen specifically in the Twitter space around metadata and cataloging, etc., I'm very proud for the fact that the conversations that you've had this year are actually international conversations, things that are of concern to people that have an affinity for what you do internationally. And I think it really what this committee has done is actually put us at the forefront of international conversations. And I think, and I agree with you, that it would be very sad if we are to lose that kind of anchor that we've actually built in this last 2 years. So definitely, I think it is important that we actually look at how does this fit into the structure, and what do we need to build if it's not there. I then do want to say, and leading into the next part of what I want to say, is that and now I've lost my train of thought. So if this motion passes for what we are proposing to do, one of the things that we were wrapped over the knuckles about is to get as much input as possible into what we are proposing in terms of how the constitution needs to change, how the restructuring model needs to look. And certainly I want to assure everybody that if this motion passes and we do get the mandate, then obviously that will happen. It will go out. People will have the chance to comment, to make known what they feel about it, what is lacking in it, what needs to change in it. And I certainly would then want to encourage everybody in this community to actually make your voices heard about this particular aspect as well. And that's why I specifically highlighted. So just to kind of, if there are no questions, so what we have and what Fatima has alluded to earlier is the fact that there was a decision taken at an EXCO and a Rep Council level following a meeting we had in May initially, that we were going to have the stakeholders meeting. We were then going to have a special general meeting. But because of the protractedness of the constitutional changes conversation that we had with the attorneys, we couldn't deliver that document according to the timeline that is required by the Constitution. And rightly so. And I think, like we were royally wrapped over the knuckles at the stakeholders meeting, and we should have gone to members and say, this is our intention at an earlier date. It didn't happen. And for that, we need to apologize and say to everybody, the intention was not to put us in a position where we put the association at risk. But having said that, I think there is a risk. So taking this motion to conference, the risk is that if it is not approved by members, technically speaking, there is no liaison after that. So I do need everybody to understand the urgency of what I'm saying here, and why we need everybody to really look at this. And I'm not saying that you must just wholeheartedly say yes to all of this. The restructuring conversation has taken such a long time. It's a conversation that started in 2016. When I talk to people about restructuring, unless they have real vested interest in it, I get the sense that everybody's very often at a point where, we actually need to get to the end of this now. It's gone on for so long, and when are we actually getting to the end? When I speak to people in other associations where restructuring is also happening, where it has happened, 7 years to actually get to a point where you say, okay, maybe not perfect, but this is where we're actually going to. So in terms of this process, and because of the drawn out process in terms of amending the constitution, what we are then obviously proposing is that, one, there is an adjournment of a portion of the AGM. The motion itself is available on the website, so I'm not going to read it word for word, but that there's an adjournment of a portion of the AGM specifically related to the constitutional changes. So anything around those matters be adjourned by the end of the AGM. That the 2023 elections obviously be postponed, that the EXCO, and when I say EXCO, I'm talking about the elected positions in EXCO. So we're talking president, president-elect, treasurer, secretary, PRO remains in place. That, and this was an agreement with people who attended the stakeholder meeting, that there be an additional up to 5 members from REPCO that gets pulled onto what is essentially just EXCO at that point. And that we also add another 5 nominated ordinary liaison members, or maximum of 5, and that forms what is known as the interim council. The role of that interim council would be to work towards the restructuring process, preparing the organization for the elections for that new structure. And so there's very, very tight dates aligned to that. So we're asking, for example, that the AGM, the adjournment portion, be adjourned until the 28th of February. At that particular AGM, we would then put in front of members what the constitutional changes would be, what the structure would be, and obviously then how the constitution aligns to that. Part of that then will be as well is that an agreement at that point, at that particular meeting, there'll be a special general meeting called, which would be no later than 3 months after that date. So we're talking about the 28th of May. And at the 28th of May, we would have held elections. So the interim committee would have prepared the organization to hold elections. There would be the whole process that gets followed to do elections. And at that point, we'd have a special general meeting. The election results would be known. And at that point, the interim council then collapses. It falls away. It doesn't exist anymore after that date. And then the new structure comes into being. So that's essentially what the motion actually speaks to. The structure itself, we haven't really deviated from what was initially proposed by the immediate past president when she made an announcement to conference. So again, in terms of the actual structure, is that the Rep Council, the EXCO, is replaced by a board. The board, in essence, relates to our governance as a professional body. So as a professional body, SACWA requires us to have certain things in place. We next have our status reviewed in 2024. We've had a midterm review in 2023, started in 2022. We got the results in 2023 when we were found lacking in one or two areas. One of those areas relates to governance. So they made note of the fact that we didn't have a board in place, but that we had the Rep Council, and therefore they were quite happy at that point to indicate that in some ways we are compliant and that there is a structure. But specifically, it speaks to the fact that there is something lacking in terms of governance. And therefore, in order to prepare for that process, for us to get the next 5 years of being the professional body and recognized as such, we are then working towards putting this board and the new structure in place. So the board would then compose, we're proposing 13 members. It will have the 5 sectors represented, which is public libraries, higher education libraries, school libraries, special libraries, and LIS education. The LIASA office manager would be on the board as well. So the 5 sector chairs will be elected. The president-elect will be elected. There will obviously be the president. In this case, the incoming president would be Charlie Molepo, but we would elect a president-elect and the 5 sector chairs. But we're also proposing that there are 5 additional members appointed to the board, and these would relate to expertise and required skills that we would identify that is lacking in what the current board already has at that point. There would also be substructures related to that, and I'm not necessarily going to get into all of those right now. I think what's important is to note that that would be the composition of the board. If, again, all of this is agreed to, we are then saying that by the 28th of May, this board will then come into being. It would take over the running of LIASA. So in terms of the way the current structure works, we wouldn't have a PRO, we would not have a secretary, and we would not have a treasurer. But the board would then make provision for some of those things, for example, the finance aspect, but some of the other aspects would have to move into the office. And right now, financially, we're not in a position to deal with that. And I know it's a question that people always have, but that is then something that needs to be looked at moving forward as well. So that's quite a mouthful and a lot that I've actually said, but that's what we are aiming to do, and that's what the motion will speak to at conference. And again, I want to say that while the intention was not there to put the association at risk, that there is a risk. And therefore we're asking people to consider the motion in all its elements, and then obviously at that point be voting whether they are in favor of it or not. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think although it is a mouthful, it has put into context a lot of the communications and so on that we've received. And I think given colleagues an update on the restructuring. And as I always say, and I always remind people, that we're not just restructuring for the sake of restructuring. We are restructuring for compliance because we are now a professional body. And they are, in order to maintain that status, there are some things that we have to do. Of course, I think we're also taking the opportunity to look into the future and to structure the organization for the future, and that's fine. Let me stop talking and see if there are any questions from the colleagues. Anything in the chat? Again, colleagues, you can raise your hand or just put your mic on. Susan is saying, thank you, Fatima and your team. And Marta is saying, thank you, Nazim. Congratulations, Fatima and team. Thank you, colleagues. We worked hard, and let me also take the opportunity to thank the executive committee for allowing me to lead you and push you. But I have done so with a specific agenda of preparing you. Because you are the future, you will take over and you will take IGBIS into the future, whatever it will be called and whatever form it will take on. And I'm quite happy with the colleagues. They are ready. I can let go. So I'm just waiting for this elections to happen and the structure to come in. Because I think that the Mercer is ready, Sarah is ready. Ingrid and I are sort of in the same boat, but certainly in terms of the future and the younger generation, they are ready. In IGBIS, we are ready. Lindy Wiltz from Sabinet is saying, thank you for explaining the motion, Mr. President. Yeah, I think it is important, Mr. President. Thank you for coming this morning and taking the time to spend with us and explaining it, because I do think it's a lot of process, and you need to receive it in context of the whole thing, and it's not always possible to do that in written communication. It's you need to have a conversation. All right, colleagues, last chance for any questions. Again, you can put it in the chat, put your hand up, or just put your microphone on. Okay, give it another moment. All right, it looks like there aren't any questions. There's a last comment. A big thank you to the IGBIS Exco for a wonderful year and all the events you've given to the members. Members' opportunity to attend and to help us grow and develop a job. Well done indeed. Thank you very much, colleagues. It's really worth it when we receive positive feedback like that. And like I indicated, we did want to make sure that IGBIS is visible and that we grow the membership so that into the future we have a future, in fact, for this forum. Again, whatever it might be called in the future. Thank you, Mr. President, for joining us, colleagues. I'm going to move on to the last item on the agenda, which is to close the AGM of Liasa IGBIS 2023. Thank you for your attendance. Thank you for your feedback and your reactions, your thumbs up and your applauses. Very much appreciated. And again, Mr. President Nazim Hardy, thank you for joining us. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good day.
Pleasure.